Don't say yes.
Don't say no.
Don't go outside.
Don't trust anyone.
Don't drink too much.
Don't provoke.
Don't get raped.
Don't walk alone.
Don't go out tonight.
Don't get drunk.
Don't wear that skirt.
Don't show so much.
Don't dress like that.
Don't smile at strangers.
Don't trust anyone.
Don't say that.
Don't do that.
Welcome to our podcast.
Everyone, welcome to our podcast. I'm your host, Tanya, and this is my co-host, Martina. Welcome.
Hello.
Also, today we have a special guest with us. This is Alba, our friend and colleague. Welcome, Alba. How are you today?
Hi, I'm doing very well. I'm very happy to be here, so thanks for having me.
This is the first episode of our 3-episode podcast about public sexual harassment and street safety. So, what is public sexual harassment, Alba?
So, street harassment, which is also known as catcalling, can be defined as unwanted comments, gestures, and actions forced on a stranger in a public space without their consent. This is an important part to remember, that it is always without their consent, and that is directed at them because of their actual or perceived sex, their gender expression, or sexual orientation. And this is the definition according to the organization Stop Street Harassment.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who are unfamiliar with this topic, Martina, could you please elaborate a little bit more on what actions can be identified as street harassment?
Yeah, so street harassment includes unwanted whistling, sexist, homophobic, or transphobic slurs, persistent request for someone's name, number, or destination after they've said no several times or once, sexual names, comments, public masturbation, groping, or sexual assault and rape.
So I would say street harassment is an issue of human rights. What would you guys say?
Yeah, I would definitely agree, because human rights are being violated. The freedom of mobility, for example, is being violated as women fear to go out to the street. And yeah, it limits this person's ability to be in public, which can then further limit their ability to go on the street, do what they like, even get to work and do fulfill their basic needs.
Yes, definitely. And another basic human right is the right to safety, which is totally violated in this case.
Yeah. And I think the three of us can agree on that street harassment can be suffered by everyone, but there's a higher percentage of women suffering for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you have all experienced a catcalling or street harassment before.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, sadly.
Yeah, so if you wanted to go a bit more into, what does it exactly mean for sexual harassment to be intersectional? Could you elaborate on that, Tanya? Because you were telling me about that before.
Yeah, I would say it is intersectional. It can affect everyone regarding religion, race, sex orientation, etc. And also, while street harassment often occurs on a more frequent basis for teenagers and women in their 20s, the chance of it happening never goes away. And also, women in their 80s have shared stories before about street harassment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very interesting to see how teenagers and really young, not even women, they're almost still kids, are often the victims of street harassment. But it is kind of hard to sometimes understand why exactly. So
yeah, I think I was like 12, 14 when it happened to me the first time.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I would, by personal experience, also say that gradually, as I've been growing up, it has been happening with less frequency, which I always thought would be the other way around, but it did not. So yeah, I think that is very shocking, but sadly the truth.
It can also depend on the country, I think, maybe.
But it happens everywhere, I would say.
Yeah,
even
totally.
in very gender equal or safe countries, it still happens.
Yeah.
For example, let's look at the Netherlands. Research carried out by the I&O Research on behalf of the municipality of The Hague shows that nearly half of the residents of The Hague have experienced an incident of street harassment in the past year. It happens in like every neighborhood, or while cycling, in a shopping area, in a busy road. But indeed, younger residents face street harassment more often than older residents. And women have experienced it. Like in the research, in the survey, 55% of women said they experienced street harassment, whereas 29% of men experienced it. So as you can see, there is a big difference. And strangely enough, it is often seen as a women's problem, even though the perpetrators are men usually, which adds to this gender inequality and this power disparity between the genders.
Yeah, thank you, Martina, for your research. That's really important and interesting data.
Yeah, and what I also think is interesting is that I guess it took me a while to realize what street harassment meant or to be able to identify it. That's why I think it's important that we explained how we can identify street harassment, because especially as a young woman or as a teenager, you're not able to recognize, okay, this is street harassment, I'm being harassed in public, because sadly it's often normalized as well, so it's almost part of your daily life. And you don't realize that it is happening, which is also again why women are often not able to say, oh, I have been street harassed, because they're not even able to identify it. That's why it's important that we are having this conversation.
And please note that it's never just a comment, but that it always is a power move.
As Martina said, it is a power move, and the root causes are power and gender inequality. And girls stop doing what they love. This affects our daily life and our safety.
Yeah, like at night when I'm, I don't know, at a friend's house or something, and I have to go home during the evening, it does kind of, I think about it twice if I'm gonna walk or if I'm gonna take the bus, or if I text my friend, oh yeah, I'm leaving, oh yes, I got home, or I call someone.
Yeah, definitely.
So it is constantly like in the back of your head, even though like maybe you might not be like in fear like every second, but you do think about it.
Yeah, and some people might say, no, I'm not afraid of it. At the end of the day, I think this is like a really big issue, and it's happening a lot. Also, depending on the country, you can feel more safe or not. Or
Yeah, I think with you guys, because we all come from different countries and we all did not grow up in the Netherlands, but we have had some experience now studying in the Netherlands in the Hague, so we know how it works here. But would you say that back home or in a different country you have had different experiences regarding street harassment?
Alba, we both come from Spain, so I think we both know what we're talking about when talking about Spain and catcalling mostly. Sadly, it is something really common back home.
It is definitely. I mean, I feel like it was definitely a part of growing up in Spain. And it was almost a shock to me when I arrived here. And at least for me, to the extent I was used to, I almost did not experience any catcalling compared to Spain. So I remember I would just walk home from school and I was in my school uniform, which clearly indicates that I'm a minor and that I go to school and that I'm just a child. I was like 13 years old. And then men would approach me and my sister offering us like drive us home or take us to eat somewhere. I remember that really well, and I don't know, it was always a conversation that was really prominent with me and my friends and with the people around us, because it would happen constantly, and it was definitely something that shaped and affected the way I would behave in public and the decisions and the choices I would make.
And Martina, what about Italy?
In Italy, I would say it's more or less the same as here. Like here in the Netherlands, like it happens frequently, but I would say maybe less frequent than in Spain, because we have talked about it before, the three of us, and I feel like it happened less in my life so far, but that doesn't mean that it's not a problem.
Yeah, even though like also Spain is not safe and catcalling happens very often, but it is still maybe even safer than other countries. So we can say it can be much worse in other places, sadly.
Yeah, but again, we have to remember that it's many factors that affect it. So it's the time of day it is the environment, it is if it's a busy street or not. Also, it changes from regions and cities. Some cities maybe have it more, and some smaller like villages and areas are maybe less prone to have more, higher occurrence of sexual street harassment.
So you think the area is a factor, like wealthier areas maybe?
From my personal experience, I would say so, yes.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm able to exactly define where you draw the line, but I've definitely seen a difference in different areas. For example, in where I grew up in Spain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, probably to come to an end, I would say it's never the victim's fault. The problem and the blame lays with the harasser, and sadly, we still live in a world where the victim blaming still exists. And some people find documenting helpful, like filming, writing down what happened, your experience. And yeah, we also really encourage, if this ever happened to you or if it's happening, please reach out to somebody, look for help. There's always help. And yeah, your safety.
And the likelihood that someone has experienced a similar thing or the same thing is very high. So it can be very helpful to talk to someone who has had a similar experience.
Yeah, and again, just to round up and finish, I think it's a good tip to write it down or speak about it, because then you're making what the experience that happened to you tangible, and then you're able to talk about it and you're able to identify exactly what happened. Because again, many times it can take someone a while to recognize that it was indeed street harassment, it was indeed sexual harassment, and it is good to write it down or to speak about it, and then you are able to identify what happened and then also find the adequate help you need.
Yeah, because safety and dignity are basic human rights that are violated, and women are the main victims of street harassment, sexual harassment, and catcalling every day in the Netherlands as well as in the rest of the world. This issue should not be normalized, and we have to talk about it, and we have to stand up. So please, if you see someone that is being catcalled or that needs help, then please defend them or stand up or call out your friends, because this is not okay.
Yep. So thank you very much for being here with us today, Alba. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it very much to have this conversation, which is very much needed.
Yeah. In the second episode, we will talk further about different experiences with 3 guests. And then in the third episode, we have a more legal perspective and psychological perspective that is connected to street harassment.
Thank you. See you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.